we get started now?
All right, that sounds good. All right. So thanks everybody for joining us here today. This hour is meant to introduce you to simulations and answer any questions that you might have. So if you have questions, go ahead and use the chat feature or interrupt me at any time because this is all for you. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is David DeYoung, and I'm the chair of the Division of Educational Leadership at the University of South Dakota. So now you have a friend in South Dakota in the Midwest. And before this, I was a teacher and a principal and a superintendent in Iowa for 8 years. And in my first year in higher education, I was at a conference and I stumbled across these simulations at a breakout session at a conference. And in just 10 minutes, I sat there, I'm like, this is the best tool out there for current and aspiring leaders. I knew it. And it got people talking about what they needed to talk about. So I started using them all different kinds of ways in online formats, asynchronous, synchronous, in front of big groups, in front of small groups. And the more I used them, the more I loved them. And when I started using them, there were 14 simulations in the library, and now there are more than 30. So that tells you about how many SchoolSims are added each year. So before I get any further, I want to hear from each of you. What are your goals for the simulations? And what questions do you have before we begin? So Nicole, would you be willing to start us off, please?
Sure. Yeah. So as I was saying, David, when we were just greeting each other, hi, everyone. Good to see you all. Was that we have at RIAS a robust coaching program for aspiring and new principals. And so our goal is to use this in training with our coaches, as well as give this tool to coaches to use with their client, the aspiring or new principal to work with.
Thank you. Do you have any questions, Nicole?
Not yet.
Okay. Bob, would you be willing to go next?
Well, I'm going to sort of reiterate what Nicole has said, and I'm anxious to get into this, and I've heard a little bit about the product. I've got familiarity when we adopted a new teacher's educator evaluation system in Rhode Island. In order to be an evaluator, you had to pass a test, and it was an online test, and the test you took was actually watching classrooms and doing a mock evaluation. The quality of those videos was so horrendous that it was just the source of tremendous frustration of every principal in the state or every evaluator in the state. So I recognized the value of having those real life scenarios, but I am very anxious to see something of high quality like these simulations.
Great, thank you. Tiffany, would you go next, please?
Certainly. So in my role in Guilford County Schools in North Carolina, I lead professional learning and leadership development. And so Guilford County Schools, it has been a part of the Wallace Foundation Principal Pipeline Learning Community. And part of that learning community is taking the 7 domains for Principal Pipeline and really shoring up a more strategic plan across those 7 domains. And in our self-study, one thing that we identify as an area of opportunity is in onboarding our assistant principals and ongoing development for all assistant principals, not just those who may be selected for aspiring principal programming. And so my husband is actually an adjunct professor in leadership development at UNC Greensboro. And so he introduced me to the simulations. And so I became interested, or our district became interested in investing in this as part of our onboarding and ongoing professional learning for our assistant principals.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany. Becky, would you go next, please?
Sure. I'm the Director of Learning and Teaching this year at Paul Cuffey School, which is a small charter school in Providence. And I'm a coach with RIASP, and we're interested in learning how these simulations might be helpful to our coaches and our principals.
Got it. Thank you, Buddy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Buddy Comet. I'm principal of Ella Risk School in Central Falls, Rhode Island. And I just wanted to see how the simulations might apply to coaching situations for new administrators in the district, and also to see if there's any possible use for building teacher leadership skills, where the teacher may not be becoming admin, but might have some roles and responsibilities that are similar to admin responsibilities.
Yeah, great. Let me pause there for a bit. I've tested these out with teachers multiple times, and they loved them. They love them because there's a natural curiosity that they have for what happens when the principal's door is closed. And when they get done with the simulations, they are just blown away. And they oftentimes say things like, I had no idea the principal had to deal with that. Or, lots of things that broaden their perspective to kind of think at the building level rather than just their classroom level. So I think they work really well, except for teachers get really tired going through simulations. Like, they are exhausted by the end if you do a couple in a row. That's one thing I learned, but all right, I'll keep going here. Sherry, is that how you pronounce your first name?
Yeah, I want to echo Bob. I remember those videos that we watched, and so the purpose, I think the intent was the same as this, to see something good, to see something not so good. And I think that with more attention to the planning and the modeling of the scenario, I think will be much more useful. And it's a great time. We're all into technology right now.
Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you. Sue, would you go next, please?
Hi, I'm Suzette Wardell. I'm a elementary principal at Picasa Elementary School in Rhode Island. And I just echo my colleagues from Rhode Island. They all said it well.
Great. And finally, Tara, would you go?
Sure. Tara McAuliffe. I'm a principal at Rockwell Elementary School in Bristol. And my friends said everything I wanted to say. Also was interested in coaching, using this as a tool in coaching, but I love what Brady brought up about using it with teachers. Could definitely see sitting down with a teacher, going through something to try to identify what we're looking for in their practice or what we're not looking for in their practice. So excited.
Excellent. Thank you, Tara. All right, now I'm going to have Brent talk a little bit about the portal. It's basically an easy way for you as the facilitator to get a hyperlink to the simulation. And then after that, you won't need any passwords for the participants. So go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, thanks, David. We did actually just redesign the portal within the past few months. So we've tried to make it as user-friendly and intuitive as possible. Just this morning, within the past few hours, I did create an account for everyone that's on the call. Hopefully you received an automated email that has your login instructions. Sometimes it gets caught up in a spam folder. So if you don't see it right away, maybe check junk mail. And if you haven't come across it yet, just let me know and we'll make sure that we get you in. But easy enough, just go to SchoolSims.com and the login is in the top right-hand corner where you just click the login link and it'll take you right to a page where you can enter your email address. I created a temporary password for everyone, but if you didn't see the email, just put in your email address and enter forgot password and it will allow you to create a new one. This is the dashboard that you'll see once you log in. There's navigation on the left-hand side that will allow you to view the Sims, manage the Sims, and view reports. The top left-hand corner, where you'll find your name and a link to take you to your profile on the site, and there you can change your password. You can replace the temporary password with a new password of your choosing. We made it easy to view the simulations right from the site. The bottom button on the left-hand column, View Simulations. And when you click that, that will take you directly into our simulation library. On this page, you'll be able to scroll down through all of the sims, and you'll see a brief description, an introduction of each of those, and the ability to view the sim right on the site. If you're watching for yourself, or if you're facilitating a small group and you want to do it right from the computer. There's also navigation on the left-hand column of this page that allows you to filter the sims. If there's a specific area of interest that you're searching for, you can narrow it by the PCEL standards, NELP standards, the protagonist of the situation or the stakeholder. And as the library continues to grow, this will allow you to more narrowly find sims that are appropriate, hopefully as quickly as easily as possible for you. Everyone that's on the call right now will be set up as an administrator for the site. Anyone else that will be facilitating the sims or sharing the sims, we would be happy to set them up as a site administrator as well. Anyone who is set up as part of your group, you will see on this page under the user management. Anyone who is simply going to be viewing the simulation and not doing any tracking of it or doing any sharing, we would call them a participant for the purposes of the site. And they would be able to view the sims, play the sims, and participate in the sims, but they would not have any of the administrator privileges as far as viewing any of the reports or sharing them or creating the hyperlinks. So anybody that from your group that would be playing a role, if there would be mentors that we would want to have some control over sharing the sims, we'd be happy to set them up as well. The sims management would be the page where you would start the process for sharing a sim if you would like. This has a list similar to the library of all the sims, and there's a brief description of each. Once you find a sim that you'd like to share with someone, you click on the little red envelope on the right-hand column, and that will take you directly to a page where you can enter an email address to share the sim. If you wanted to share the entire library at once, you can simply add all of the simulations in the top window to share the simulations. But if you just wanted to share one specific sim or a few at a time, you could just enter those in that top window. You can enter as many email addresses as you would like there. And if you are simply looking to create a link that you would share, you can actually send it to yourself. You can enter your own email address in that window and then create an email to your own inbox that would create a hyperlink that you could then copy and paste to share with someone else. So this would be an example of where you would enter the sims and the email addresses to share. And then this is an example of the email that is created by doing that. There is a unique hyperlink which is generated, which you can see in blue there. And right from the recipient's inbox, they can click on that link and that would take them directly to a landing page with again, a brief description of the sim and the ability to play the sim right on the site right there by clicking the red play sim button. At any point when the sim link is no longer needed, if you get to the end of a session or for whatever reason it's been viewed, you no longer need to have the link available. On the link management page, you'll see a list of all the email addresses and the links that we sent. You can simply click the red trash can icon on the right to disable the link, and then that would discontinue the access on that. The last tab is for reports management. And again, this one of the neat features is it does give you the ability to view which of the sims have been played by the users that you've shared a link with. You can see when they played it, how often they played it, and the dates and which sims. So if for whatever reason, managing a group wanted to make sure that everyone received the sim and was able to access it, the reports management is available to make that easy, and you can just kind of track to make sure everyone's on the same page. So that's a real quick overview of the site. I do see, and I apologize, I was speaking through things. I missed a few things in the chat. So I'm going to go try to track down some emails and see if I can help anyone there. I'll turn it back over to David, but please let me know if I can answer any other questions or do anything else to help.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. I was watching the chat feature and a few people want you to add a new email address. So
Yep.
Go ahead and he'll get that done before we are done with this meeting. All right, now here are a few things that I've learned when facilitating the simulation. If you have a large group of participants, it's great because I will use one projector, one sound system, one computer, and one simulation. And then all simulations begin with 3 to 5 minutes of context. They kind of tell you who you are, what type of school you're working with, and then you come to a decision point. And at that first decision point, that's if you have 150 people in your group or just 20, you can break that group into 75 groups of 2 or 10 groups of 2, because you can make a really big group small with these simulations. And that's a huge advantage. They also work with small groups of participants. So you were talking about coaches and using them with like one mentor and one mentee. That works really well. You can, if the mentor has the link, they will be able to self-guide themselves through a simulation all the way to the end and have those rich one-on-one discussions at each decision point. Now, I can't stress this enough. The real magic of these simulations happens within the discussion points. And I'll show you, I'll demonstrate that for you in a little bit. Now, the big advantage when you are synchronously together, whether you're in the same room or Zoom, is to take advantage of those organic conversations back and forth between people. The depth of the conversations that they'll have is just amazing. They'll start pulling in like their past experiences, their belief systems, their values, a district policy, and they go really deep very quickly. So the big advantage of synchronously is to get them to talk. Now, asynchronously, I was the first professor in the world to use these simulations asynchronously in school preparation programs. And what I learned is that if you give them a link to do it on their own, they're willing to take risks. They would come into my online class and they would say, I went through this simulation 4 or 5 times just to see what would happen, even if I never would have made that decision in real life. And that's a big difference, because when they're synchronously together, they answer in a way where they don't look like a fool in front of their mentor, or they don't look like a fool in front of their peers. But when they're asynchronous, they're willing to take risks. So what I'm trying to get you to think of right now is don't just use these one way. Like, try to use these all different types of ways, and you won't be disappointed. And they work well via Zoom or GoToMeeting. So I'll show you how I use these via Zoom, and it's 95% the same of how I would use them if I flew to Rhode Island or North Carolina right now and was in front of this group. So here are some key points that I learned. How you frame it up matters. So if I was going to get in front of a group of people, I would say, we're going to take about an hour and we're going to go through this simulation together. Oh, just a second. Let me mute. There we go. We're going to go through this simulation for about an hour, and it's a risk-free environment to give you an experience that you can take back to your school building. And people, when they hear that, okay, I'll give you an hour for a simulation. It's kind of a safe environment, and that matters. Now, if you don't learn anything else from this time together, this is like my one big thing, right? So when I facilitated simulations for the first 3 years, I would be in front of a group of aspiring principals. There'd be 25 in front of me, and we'd lead our context, and we get to our first decision point. And then I would read A, B, C, or D, and I would ask the group, I would say, all right, what do you think? A, B, C, or D. And they would get really quiet. And then one extroverted person would come in hard and they would say, I think it's C. This actually happened to me last week and this is how it played out. And I know that C is the right answer. And the rest of the people in the room would be like, oh yeah, I thought it was C too. And I would come away and I would think there's no way that everybody in this room thought it was C. So what I started doing is I started making them lock in their answer before they talk to anybody else. Complete game changer to how to facilitate the Sims. So the easiest way to do it is I'm going to do this with you today. I'm going to say, take out a pencil or a pen and write down A, B, C, or D, what you think the answer is. And then I will let you talk about why you think the answer is the way it is. The second way to make them lock in their answer is my wife's a first grade teacher. And I was telling this to her and she told me she made little card tents out of cardstock. So if they wanted the letter B, they would set up B. And then as a facilitator, I could see like, okay, we have a lot of B's, a couple C's, and 2 A's. And then I knew how to, go about the next part of facilitating it. Also, if you're good with technology, you can use Plickers. You can have 60 people and you can get an immediate bar graph that's generated. And what's great about that, because I always use Plickers, when you show leaders that not everybody thinks the way that they do, they are floored and they want to talk about it and they just can't believe that not everybody thinks the way that they do. So I don't know, as leaders, if we think our answers are pretty good or what the phenomenon is, but when you show them that not everybody thinks like them, they will be, you'll get the conversations going. The next thing I learned that is if the narrator is not reading the text on the screen, just read it. Don't assume that everybody has good eyesight, they have a good internet connection, or they process as quickly as you do. Next, all you have to do as the facilitators, after they lock in their answer, you say, talk about what letter you chose and why. That's all you need to say. And then you sit back for between 2 and 8 minutes. That seems crazy to give somebody 8 minutes to talk about something in just an hour time. But trust me, the less you talk, the more your participants are going to come back thinking, oh, that was awesome. Now, if you have a one-on-one coaching session, like some of you are talking about, naturally, they're just going to talk and share. The mentor is going to be sharing experiences. What I would tell my coaches if I were you is I would say, make it about the mentoree or the aspiring leader. Do not share war stories about how this happened to you. Every coach, all of you that are going to see this, you're going to think, oh, this happened to me. Oh, this happened to me. And you're going to want to share your story. The more you make it about the participants or the aspiring leaders, the better they're going to have experience. Now, this is one thing that I've been thinking about a lot. Tiffany already mentioned this. Thank you for mentioning that. The principal pipelines, we know they work, right? And if I was in charge of a principal pipeline in my district, and I'm actually the product of a principal pipeline where they tapped me when I was a 3rd grade teacher and they said, hey, you'd make a good principal. Will you come to one meeting a month and we'll talk about leadership? And there was a springboard for me. If I was leading that in a district today, this is what I would do. In September, I would facilitate academic goal setting. You're a principal and you're helping this teacher set his academic goals and he digs his feet in. It's great. It's a great challenge. In October, I would facilitate the dress code simulation. It's the easiest simulation in the library to facilitate. And basically you're helping this teacher, there's complaints about her dress and the way she teaches math. And you have to address those and be an instructional leader. In November, I would use special education. You're a new principal and the nurse promises a one-on-one aid to a parent and that parent's child has diabetes. And the superintendent says, no, you can't do that. So after it's promised, you have to take it back. It's hard. In December, I would do new teacher evaluation. This is a unique sim. It has a stress meter. So based on your decisions, this new teacher's stress either goes up or it goes down. And half of the room of people, like let's say you have 20 aspiring leaders, 10 will say, we need to make decisions to increase her stress and make her change. And the other 10 are going to say, no, we got to work with this teacher, decrease her stress, and just keep coaching her to change. It's a great conversation. January, I would use the girls basketball coach. You're a principal, a parent complains about a coach, it gets to the media. In February, I would use disruptive teacher. In South Dakota, what happens in February, everybody starts getting crabby at each other because we've been indoors like the frozen tundra forever. And this is very applicable. And I'm going to show this one to you today. In March, I would use cultural competency. You have a popular teacher that people start complaining about with his lack of cultural competency. It's probably my second favorite sim. In April, I would use the cyberbullying simulation. It's a bunch of little mini scenarios that you have to use your district's policy to make good decisions. Also, like these simulations, a lot of them have feedback reports at the end, where when we're working with adult learners, it's important to take some time to reflect at the end of the learning session. So that way you kind of drive home what you want to. And in May, I would use the end of the school year. This is good for a new principal to understand at the end of the year, you're dealing with problems with curriculum, discipline, scheduling, teacher issues, budget, and you can't do anything else because you just have lots of problems coming your way. I am now going to show you a simulation. What questions do you have for me as I transition here?
None yet. You're doing a great job, David. Thank you.
All right, very good. So this is the website, and this is the login, and this is, if you click on that, it goes to your name and you can log in. And then so you can see one of my students did the transgender simulation. I'm teaching an online course. So this is how the report feature works. Now, the disruptive teacher simulation. So let's say I wanted to view that. I'll play the simulation and we'll be off to the races here. So in this simulation, in this scenario, you're the principal of Brookside Elementary School. At Brookside, the less experienced faculty members tend to be special educators, and there is a divide between the veterans and the new faculty. You were concerned about the progress of students with diverse learning needs. So during your first 2 years at the school, you successfully established collaborative groups amongst the teachers with the intention of increasing student achievement. You have also initiated a co-teaching model where special education and regular education teachers are teaming in classrooms. Though still in the early stages, the collaborative groups have developed norms such as treat colleagues respectfully, make positive suppositions, notice your impact on others, and so on. Establishing norms seems to have helped the school climate, but more effort is needed. You are concerned that the staff still does not always treat one another in a professional manner. Your goal is to create a more positive tone in the school. So one of our actors in this, we're going to meet Kim Campana. Now remember, we're a principal, and how it starts is Kim's going to come into our office, shut the door, and tell us a concern that she has about Diana, who doesn't look very nice in that picture. And then we'll meet Brian at a collaborative team meeting, and Christy is also on our 6th grade team.
Though still in the early stages, the collaborative groups have developed norms such as treat colleagues respectfully, make positive presuppositions, notice your impact on others, and so on. Establishing norms seems to have helped the school climate, but more effort is needed. You are concerned that the staff still does not always treat one another in a professional manner. Your goal is to create a more positive tone in the school. It is now late spring and state test results indicate students in disaggregated groups are failing to make adequate progress. One of your go-to teachers, Kim Capania, a special education teacher, is assigned to co-teach with a 6th grade teacher, Diana Walsh, who is particularly unpleasant. Kim is a teacher leader who seems well-grounded, highly professional, and someone who gets it. Moments before she is scheduled to facilitate the 6th grade collaborative team meeting, she asks to speak with you and then arrives in your office.
Now, when I push next, we're going to meet Kim.
Thank you for meeting with me. I'm sorry I am so upset, but I've been trying to decide if I should even come to you about this. Now I think I've waited too long, but you must know, Diana is very tough on the kids. She has her favorites, but with some kids, she has such an attitude. She's sarcastic and she calls them lazy, and she's making some of them really shut down. I do all I can to build the kids up. We're supposed to be teaming in her classroom. She's making that impossibly hard. On top of that, she's just so rude to some kids and to me.
All right, now when I push next, everybody is going to take out a pencil or a pen, wherever you are, and I'm going to have you write down A, B, C, or D, because I'm going to have you vote on a poll. So I need you to remember that. So let's see how are we going to respond to Kim's concerns?
How will you respond to Kim's concerns? Make a choice from the following. 1, thanks so much for opening up about your concerns, Kim. What are your perceptions about what is going on? Or 2, I've seen some of the same issues with Diana. I'm glad you feel comfortable coming forward. Tell me more about what you've been seeing. Or 3, Kim, you need to understand that she is trying to motivate kids that are falling through the cracks. Some of those kids just need the kind of tough love she is delivering. Or 4, I hear your concerns. The problem is that if it's just you, it is a he said, she said situation. I haven't heard from others who share your concerns.
Give me a thumbs up when you have A, B, or C, or D written. Either with the icon. Got it, Becky. Got it, Tara. Sue. Got it, Nicole. Got it, Sherry, Tiffany, and Buddy. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to send up a poll, and I'd like you to vote based on what letter you chose. So if you chose the first option, just A, then click on the first option. Okay, I see the votes coming in. All right, I see everybody has now voted. Now, I'm going to share the results with you to show you how fast it is. 100% of the people voted A. I would say that 90% of the people choose A on this first decision point. Okay, so very popular answer. And as a facilitator, you can spend as much time as you want talking about it. Say, you know, why did you choose A? Another way that as a facilitator, you could say, why are some of the other answers bad, right? And there is just as much learning from talking about the bad answers as there is the good answers. And it took me maybe 2.5 years to figure that out. Okay. So as a facilitator, we don't need to spend much time talking about it, but this next decision point, I predict we're going to be split. So I'm going to choose A, and we are going to keep rolling because I'm just here to kind of teach you how to facilitate these.
Well, I'm here now, so I may as well just get it all out. I know a lot of kids really like her, but I think she is so demeaning. She gives me such nasty looks sometimes, and she'll stare at me, so I feel she's undermining what I'm trying to get done in class. Sometimes she won't even give me a table or a place to work with the kids. She treats me like I'm not a professional, like I'm not a teacher. I've seen her treat other staff that way too. She needs to be more respectful. Anyway, I'm sure I've taken too much of your time, and I know we both have to get to my team's collaborative meeting. I didn't mean to dump this on you, but I just didn't know what else to do.
Oh, if we had $1 for every time somebody said, didn't mean to dump this on you, right? We'd have some dollars in our pocket. All right, let's take out your pencil or pen again, and we're going to respond again. This one's a little bit trickier.
How will you react to Kim's thoughts? Make a choice from the following. 1, Kim, this is really troubling. Your work is so important, and I'm concerned you aren't being treated respectfully. You definitely aren't taking too much of my time. Is there more? Or 2, it seems as though you've been thinking about doing something about this situation. Addressing your concerns directly with Ms. Walsh could be a good start. Do you think it would work if you reminded her about our positive assumptions norm? Or 3, Kim, thank you for sharing how uncomfortable you feel when working with Ms. Walsh. Since we're close to the end of the semester, do you think we can finish the school year and perhaps address this over the summer and into the fall?
Don't you see?
Or 4, let's go to the meeting. We can continue this conversation later. Thanks for sharing with me.
Ooh. Give me a thumbs up when you have your A, B, or D. Got it, Becky. Got it, Sue, Tara, Tiffany, Sherry, Nicole. Got it, buddy. Bob, you have your answer as well? Got it. Okay, here we go. So now what you're going to notice is I'm going to relaunch the same poll. And so you can use this via Zoom really easily. So go ahead and vote. Oh, the votes are coming in. This is unbelievable. I can't wait to share these results with you.
I feel like it's going to be 100% again. I'm just
Oh,
predicting.
it's close. Okay, normally in this decision point, I see 33%, 33%, and 33%. Okay. But this group, you have a lot of like-minded people, but I'm still going to send you to a breakout room. And what I want you to do is I want you to talk about what letter you chose and why. So I'm going to give you maybe 2 minutes here. So join the breakout room and I'll set a timer for 2 minutes and then I'll bring you back. So you should see a invitation to join the group. Perfect. It worked. Set my timer.
How's your week going, Davey?
Great.
Did you watch the basketball this weekend?
I watched a ton of basketball.
It's great.
My Hawkeyes got destroyed by Oregon.
I really thought they would go a little bit farther. Yeah, I was disappointed about that. It's tough.
Who's your team, Brent?
I'm a Tar Heels fan, so they didn't do much better. This was a rough year for them too. So.
Yeah, the Blue Bloods struggled this year.
Yeah.
It shows you how much, the coaches, even really good coaches, they need time to, bring those one and doneers together,
Yeah. Well, and even an interview with Jay Wright this weekend at Villanova, and he said, there's a lot of things that I really would like to do. We just didn't have time to put it in this year. So it's a challenge.
One time, Roy Williams was recruiting Kirk Heinrich and Nick Collison back in the Kansas days.
Yeah.
And I went and I shook his hand and I talked to him for a little while.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Roy. Yeah. And he had quite a run there at Kansas. They had some really good players.
All right. Everybody's going to be coming back. All right. Tell me what you thought about the breakout rooms. Did they work or not?
That was the fastest breakout room I've ever been in, but I realized why we were in it for that. I get it, but yes.
So when you facilitate these and you have a group of people, think, okay, 2 minutes goes really quick. Like maybe not everybody may be able to speak. And the other thing I wanted to share is when I'm doing them via Zoom, I do groups of 3 because there are times when somebody like has their phone and they can't they lose the button to join the room, or there's some technology issues. So I do groups of 3 to make sure there's always 2 people talking. When I have them in person, I only allow groups of 2 to maximize the depth and the people verbally processing and not just getting dominated by a strong leader in the group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Any reflections about your conversations, or did anybody change their mind after listening to somebody? Nope, sticking with your answer. I asked that question, like, if you changed your mind, because as a facilitator, what I learned with aspiring leaders is they're like, oh, I listened to what Jackie said. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to change it to C. And I'm like, yes, that's real life. Because if you have time as a leader to ask a peer or ask a mentor how to lead through a situation, like, do that. That's like phoning a friend. So I really try to build people up when they do that. Most of our group said B, and that is how we are going to roll here. B.
I don't know about talking to her directly. I had enough trouble deciding to come and see you. Somehow I don't think it's safe to deal with her in a direct manner. She strikes me as the retribution type. If I thought we could work this out reasonably, I would have tried that. It makes me really uncomfortable.
Okay, how are we going to respond? We can't get that in a case study, but she had some size. Her body language is a little. Let's see how are we going to do it here?
What will you say to Kim? I don't mean to make you uncomfortable and would never push you into something you don't want to do. Let's get to the meeting. Or, I know it would be hard, but I found the best outcomes are when the parties who are directly involved try to work things out.
All right, we only have 2 options. Give me a thumbs up when you have it. Got it, buddy. Got it, Tara, Tiffany, Nicole, Bob, Sherry. Okay. I'm going to launch my poll. We're going to let her out of this, or we're going to double down. You may vote. Ooh, split. I love it when it's split. All right. I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share the results with you. 75% of us are B and 25% are A. Let's just talk about this as a full group rather than sending you to breakout sessions. What are your thoughts?
I actually might take part of the first one, like say B. I know it would be hard, but I found best outcomes, blah, blah, blah. Now let's get to the meeting and then we'll reconvene and talk about ways you can move forward and help, and work to resolve this. It's like, we need to get to the meeting, and I hear you, but I don't know.
Hey, let me jump down a rabbit trail 1 second here. The more experienced leaders that I facilitate this to always want a combination of the different letters because they understand that leadership is gray. When you facilitate these with teachers, they almost exclusively choose A, B, C, or D. And they really don't ever say, I wish it, or I don't like any of the answers, right? You get strong leaders and they're like, these answers are terrible. You know, and I always say to them, I say, why do you think it's terrible? And I let them talk it out in front of the group, and it's a wonderful conversation.
So I definitely know that B is where I would try to push, but look, I don't know her. And watching her body language and her comfort level, I'm not sure that that I would want to put her in that next situation. She was not comfortable. Like you said, the size, she just seems that super sweet. So I'm not sure if right then and there I would have pushed it. I'm not sure.
I think it depends on relationship. If the principal has a great relationship with Diane and she's been able to smooth her over other times, then maybe she is the one to talk. If it is better, I mean, just like we Teacher hates it when parent goes to the principal before they talk to the teacher. Principal hates it when the parent goes to the superintendent before they talk to the principal. A colleague to a colleague is the best approach. However, the fact that maybe she can't do this, or she's so very uncomfortable and she seems like a very nice person, maybe she isn't the leader for this group either.
I think sometimes in the moment, like when you go to tell your principal the thing, you're really upset about it. You want to make sure they understand how serious this thing is for you, right? Sometimes it takes some time to just let it breathe and come back and talk about it again. And I found that like 100% of the time when someone comes to me with this person's doing this thing, and I'm completely outraged that that person's doing that thing, and I say, okay, here, what are our options? You could talk to the person, I could talk to the person, we could talk to the person together, you could talk to the person with somebody else. Those are kind of our options. What are you thinking? With enough time to think about it, everyone talks to the person by themselves. Nobody wants the principal to go rat on them, but they need prep. So you have to build in time to practice the conversation with the person before they go to talk to the other person and run through what are some of the things that could happen and how would you react to that. Then you're building the person's capacity to be able to have these conversations in the future. But if someone's calling kids lazy, like that's pretty much a blinking red light to me that this is a huge problem. I'd still want the teacher to talk to the other teacher, but we don't have that. We don't allow that. So
I think you have to know your staff, and a good principal does. And so you kind of, whether or not this teacher who's being talked about is going to exert retribution on the poor teacher who took it to the principal. So I don't think you want that teacher to know that she went to the principal and ratted you out. Rather, I think that you do want to take some time and coach that person on how to self-advocate. This is not going to be the first time you're going to have a disagreement with a colleague. So you've got to coach them, give them some strategies, and have them take responsibility, some responsibility for the situation. If it blows up, then it's time for you or somebody else to step in.
All right. Think how good of a conversation we're having right now about leadership.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, when I facilitate these, 67% of the time people choose B. B leads to Kim resigning, which just evokes all kinds of angry emotions.
That's ridiculous.
See, all I do is I mention it. It evokes like that. The simulation is wrong, right? So I know how this plays out, right? So I need to show you this video to get us about halfway through the simulation. So I know the group didn't pick this. Just trust me on this one.
You walk to the conference room to join the 6th grade collaborative meeting.
Now remember, you are sitting in this meeting. Kim is leading the meeting, and we will meet Diana.
Thanks so much, everybody, for arriving on time and bringing your assessment data. We're going to continue using our norms and get started. Our norms are: number 1, respect consensus. Number 2, share and record ideas. Number 3, notice your impact on others. And 4, maintain confidentiality. 6th graders are making such great progress, but we need to look carefully at the kids who are struggling to make sure that they're also keeping up. The math scores let us know we still need work. All of our students with learning disabilities are below the cut lines.
No kidding. Well, who didn't think this would happen when they jammed all those kids into our regular classrooms? Wasn't it better when the special ed teachers focused on those kids in their own classrooms and just let us teach our kids? After all, they're the ones not making progress. Your kids are driving all the scores down. It's not just the 6th grade either. All the other teachers agree with me. The 5th grade teachers say that all this mainstreaming is the reason the 6th graders come to us unprepared.
I'm not sure about the special ed issue, but collaborative time has been powerful. And I, for one, wish we had co-teachers or even teacher aid support in our rooms longer, even all day. But we all know that's unrealistic. Can we look at the last unit review and zero in on items that seemed the trickiest for the kids? I heard the other grade levels are using rubrics that the kids fill in to assess themselves. Could we see an example of those?
Sure, let's bring on the rubrics. Another new initiative. And how is letting kids grade themselves going to help us? Name one kid who doesn't give themselves an A. We all know it's really about our teaching. If I can't cover the content, how can we expect the kids to do well on the tests? We already don't have enough time, especially now with all the learning disabled kids in the class who don't want to pay attention or even try.
The tension in the room grows as Diana continues to demean the special education students and teachers.
All right, so here we go. The tension is growing.
Diana, I've actually had a lot of success with the rubrics. The kids love them, and you'd be surprised. They hardly ever give themselves the highest ratings. I'd be happy to share what I'm doing if it would help you.
I certainly don't need any help from you. I've been teaching since before you thought about becoming a teacher. You could learn a thing or two from me. One of those things being that rubrics are such a waste of time. I tried using rubrics the last time someone was pushing them, and the kids just didn't know what to write. It's obvious where things break down. If the special ed teachers, and I use the term loosely, could just figure out where things are breaking down for their kids, then they could help those kids. My kids will do just fine without the rubrics.
I do happen to have some sample rubrics from the 5th grade, so we can see how the kids use them to identify what they know. Sometimes they go back to make corrections on their own after they think through the rubric. I have to agree with Christy. It's amazing how well it works.
Well, I hope the 5th grade team starts doing something right, because the kids need to come to 6th grade better prepared. So many kids this year who had Jada co-teaching in the classroom with them last year. And I'm talking about the normal kids in the classroom. It's like they skipped school all year. All I'm doing is playing catch up, and with hardly any help.
All right.
What do you think you should do now? Although Kim is leading the meeting, I should intervene at this time. Or, Kim is leading the meeting, so it's best if I allow the discussion to continue.
Now, how many of you have ever worked with a Diana? Raise your hand that you've worked with a Diana, right? So in education, yes. So in education, 95% of people that I ask that question to, and I've asked it to literally thousands of people, 95%. And this is where I deviate from the simulation and I say, all right, we're going to take 5 minutes right now, and I want you to talk about your experience with a Diana. And people just, the simulation creates this small, safe moment in time where people can debrief about their experience with a Diana, whatever context that may be in. Now, you've only seen maybe like 40 or 50% of this simulation, but this is where I'm going to stop it. Just because you kind of know how I use them via Zoom, you know how to facilitate them, and I want to leave time for you to talk about, you know, the video that you just saw or how you will use them in your organization. So what are your thoughts?
Excellent acting, I would say. Diana, she did great.
And Bob was talking about, you know, the quality of the actors and actresses. I would say that this, you're going to see this quality in all of the 30 plus simulations. This is a good sample.
David, I have a quick question about Facilitator's Guide. So in thinking about really preparing for the facilitation, what are some things that you recommend take place before? Is it going through every choice and seeing how it flows? Is there a facilitator guide that gives us that information and some guided questions? Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, so I've gone through the permutations for all the different choices before Kim gets to that collaborative team meeting, right? There are 24 different paths in just the beginning thing. So I do not advise, they're like those choose your own adventure books, right? Where if you read it, if you want to go to this page, you go here, this page, you go to another thing. But so if you go through it twice, if you read the introduction and go through it twice, you'll be ready to facilitate the simulation. Because all of them have like a main storyline through the middle and just, little offshoots, but it always brings you back. Or you have to start the sim over. Like if Kim would have resigned, you have to go back to the beginning and you can just rifle through them quickly and then get to your spot in a minute.
I can see when we do, it's not just about new administrators, or I could see these, Nicole, when we do just our statewide meetings where we do some of those trainings with experienced administrators, honing your craft, kind of making you think about, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Some of that reflection on practice. I see this for all levels of administrators.
Yeah, as we were going through it, I was thinking, I'm sure there's opportunities to use these, beyond our coaching work for sure, because the conversations can be so rich. And at different levels, it'll be, you see the difference in those conversations. And I do like how it's set up with the timing. And I put that in the chat box as a report later on down the road at the end to look at which sims lasted the longest if we did them synchronously in a group. Because that allows us to understand which ones I think drew the deeper conversation. I don't know. I was kind of thinking it for that way. Like, do you go back to this now after doing this for so many years and go, okay, I know this one, and this one, like you showed us the timeline, are going to hit because of that time of the year that that these are going to drop, richer conversation.
The feedback form does not have like this conversation lasted this amount of time. Although that's really good feedback. You're the first person that brought up that idea, and Brent will bring that back to the sim company because they're always looking for ways to enhance that. And if that's one little piece of the feedback form, I'm sure they could provide that. So good idea.
I do have to say, I have to confess that a chill went up my spine at the end of the video when Diane looked right at me, and right, and so who's what principal didn't feel that stare, and this is on you to fix it.
That reminded me of something, Bob. If there's ever a tie, like let's say in our group it was 4-4. What I do as the facilitator is I turn to, assuming I have aspiring leaders, I would say, all right, Jackson, you are going to make the decision for the group. You're going to break the tie. What letter do you choose and why? And all of a sudden Jackson's like, oh, I'm in this seat now. And it builds their capacity to make a decision and explain why in front of their peers, which is a great way to break ties.
From viewing the sim, I could see how it could easily be used, whether you're experienced principal, whether you have the new principals or aspiring principals, but also teacher leaders. So whether you're looking at department chairman, you're looking at, grade level facilitators or whatever, you can use some portions of each of the sims with it. So I think that was really good. I liked it.
One time I had to present to 40 first-year superintendents, their mentor superintendents, and the secretary of ed of a large state. I was like, oh my goodness, which sim am I going to use? I chose this one. And I got to this point and I said, how many of you have worked with a board member that's Diana? And the room just blew up. And we spent the next excessive amount of time, 15 minutes, having them talk about how to work with hard board members. And they're so flexible that you can do them up to the tippy top of education And this would, think how good this is for teachers to see a Diana, you know, and how that impacts a school leader. What you brought up, Sue, you're exactly right. They can go up or down with a snap as the facilitator.
And I just want to mention too, I do think these sims are great for the teachers to be able to support the administration. This summer, we're actually working on rolling out tentatively between 3 and 5 simulations that are targeted specifically for teachers as well. So look for more information coming from that in the next few months. But I think hopefully we will be able to add a little bit more to that discussion as well.
Yeah, think how good it is if you were a principal and you had a parent-teacher conference that you could put a new teacher through their first parent-teacher conferences before they stepped into that terrifying first life experience that we all went through.
Yeah.
So good.
That's great. You just made me think we have a induction coaching program in our state that still, they have coaching and mentors that they could use that with a new teacher. So thank you. And thank you both for doing this session with us. I think, is it our time? We had an hour. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'll
Okay.
stay on if you have questions, but yeah, I have some new friends in Rhode Island and North Carolina. Thanks for joining me today. Are there any other questions that people have? Awesome. All right, I'm gonna also send you my cell phone number in an email. And you don't have to like text me and say, hey, can we set up a time to call? Just call me. People call me all the time. If you're like, I don't know which sim to use first, call me. I'll help you. So
We appreciate that. Thank you very much.
yeah, you're welcome. All right, take care, everybody, and have a great day.
You. Thank you. Tiffany, nice to meet you. Good luck. Bye, Brent. Bye. Thank you very much.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
coaches. Thanks, Bob.